Reasoning. Consider you want to buy a smartphone. What you will do? You will do some research first, then read the reviews, then compare different models, and based on this information, you create a list of pros and cons for each option. You then weigh these pros and cons and use this to make a decision. Here, what you are doing? You are using the reasoning to make a decision. Let's see what is reasoning in detail. Before that, please remember to subscribe this channel. Do watch other videos in the channel. Share it with students and those who love learning psychology. Thank you. So, what is reasoning? It is the ability to assess things rationally by applying logic based on new or existing information when making a decision or solving a problem. The reasoning allows you to weigh the benefits and disadvantages of two or more courses of action before choosing the one with the most benefit or the one that suits your needs. It also helps you to solve the problems, handle uncertainty, verify claims, and assess situations carefully to ensure the decision you make is in your best interest. An essential set of thinking skill is reasoning, the ability to generate and evaluate solid conclusions from a set of statements or evidence. Most of the time, reasoning happens automatically. For example, imagine that you wake up feeling tired, irritable, and unable to concentrate. You might reason that the reason for your feelings is that you didn't get enough sleep the night before. You might consider other possible explanations as well, such as feeling unwell or being stressed about work. But after reflecting on your recent experience, you come to the conclusion that lack of sleep is the most likely cause of your current state. Here, what you did, taking information from various sources, such as how you feel physically and mentally, and then generating multiple possible explanations for your current state, and then evaluating and weighing each explanation against the evidence you have available to you. By doing so, you arrive at a conclusion that seems more reasonable based on your understanding of the situation. So you were doing reasoning. There are two main types of reasoning, deductive and inductive. Let's see that in detail. First one, inductive reasoning. If a quick walk in the park made you feel better after a stressful day, you may decide to take a quick walk in the park the next time you have a stressful day. This is a process called inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning or induction is the process of using past experience or knowledge to draw conclusions. It gathers different premises to provide some evidence for a more general conclusion. So, what are premises? The premise includes the reasons and evidence behind a conclusion. A type of reasoning in which we make judgments about likelihood from sets of evidence is known as inductive reasoning. The inductively strong argument it will have. An inductive argument is the one in which the beginning statements lead to a conclusion that is probably true. Let us consider an example. Your mother told you that a walk in the park would be good for stress relief. So that is a premise 1. Then premise 2 is your doctor recommends 30 minutes of walking a day to relieve stress. And the third premise is like Last week, after a stressful day, you walked in the park and felt better. Then you may come to the conclusion that 30 minutes of walking in the park will help you relieve stress. People often use inductive reasoning informally in everyday situations. The inductive reasoning is a bottom-up approach. Francis Bacon is considered the father of inductive reasoning, and he is considered the father of empiricism. It is the theory that all of our knowledge is pulled from our experience and senses. The inductive reasoning uses our senses and experience to make judgments. In the example, you have seen that we have used our experience and senses to make judgment. Another example is if you have a headache and you take a painkiller, because the past experience have shown that those painkillers work well in treating headaches. So, in past experience, your headache was gone while taking the painkiller. So, next time when headache comes, you tend to take the painkiller. The inductive reasoning is easy to do, convenient for finding answers and work most of the time. But it should not be the sole process used to make conclusions about a group of people, a very important outcome, and other things that may make a huge impact. And next is deductive reasoning. It is a process in which we draw conclusions about the world around us. It is also one of the basic ideas introduced to students who are learning about logic and how to form an argument. The deductive reasoning or deduction is the process of using a group of true premises to draw a conclusion that is also true. This is known as a top-down logic because it takes broad statements and uses them to create more narrow statements. For example, all humans are mortal. Susan is a human. So, Susan is mortal. This is a classic example of deductive reasoning. It starts with a statement that is entirely true. That is, the humans are mortal. You cannot poke hole in it or argue against it. It is a fact. It is a truth. The next statement is also true. That is, Susan is a human being. And it ties to the first statement. That is, Susan is a human, so Susan is mortal. The first sentence what we said, all humans are mortal. Susan is a human, so Susan is mortal. The conclusions brings both the statement together to create a statement that we have now proven is true. It involves going from a general statement to a specific conclusion. One of the strengths of the deductive reasoning is that if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. Consider another example. The flights get cancelled when there are extreme weather conditions. That is premise 1. Then premise 2 is there are extreme weather conditions right now. Then what will be the conclusion? Therefore, the flights are cancelled. In daily life, we often use deductive reasoning to make decisions or draw conclusions based on information we already know or assume to be true. For example, if you know that all the dogs bark and you hear a barking sound outside your house, you might deduce or you might use the deductive reasoning that there is a dog nearby. Similarly, if you know that your friend always arrives at the coffee shop at 9 a.m. and now the time is 10 a.m. and they haven't shown up, then you might use the deductive reasoning that something has happened to prevent them from coming. So, what are the difference between this deductive and inductive reasoning? The inductive and deductive reasoning are two different methods of reasoning that we have learned, and it is used in logical and critical thinking. The main difference is how they move from specific observation to broader generalization or vice versa. The deductive reasoning, it starts with general premises and moves to a specific conclusion. It is a process of reasoning in which specific conclusion is drawn from a set of general premises. There will be observations and then will reach a conclusion. For example, all the birds have wings. Robin is a bird, so Robin has wings. That is an example of deduction. Here, the conclusion logically follows from the premises. Then inductive reasoning. It starts with specific observations. Then it moves to broader generalizations. It is a process of reasoning in which specific observations are used to create a general hypothesis or theory. For example, every crow I have seen is black. So, all the crows must be black. In this example, the conclusion is based on a limited set of observation and may not necessarily be true for all the instances. The deductive reasoning is a top-down approach. You start with general ideas and work towards specific conclusions through inferences. In inductive reasoning, you start with specific observation and build toward generalization or theories. It is an exploratory method. Let's see the importance of reasoning. First one, problem solving. The reasoning allows us to analyze a problem and identify possible solutions. We can weigh the pros and cons of different options and can select the best course of action based on the evidence and logic. Then, decision making. Reasoning is critical for making informed decisions. We analyze different factors, then we can make decisions that are based on evidence and logic rather than emotions or biases. Then, critical thinking. Reasoning is a key component of critical thinking. It involves analyzing information and evaluating arguments. By using reasoning to evaluate different perspectives, we can make more informed decisions and arrive at a more accurate conclusions. Then reasoning in communication. It allows us to communicate our thoughts and ideas effectively. By using the evidence and logic to support our arguments, we can persuade others to accept our point of view. Then learning. Reasoning is essential for learning. By analyzing the information and identifying the patterns, we can develop new insights and ideas. By using reasoning to evaluate our thinking, we can improve our ability to learn and make more informed decisions in the future. Now let's have a quick recap on what we have learned. In reasoning, we have learned two types of reasoning, inductive and deductive. Then the difference between these two and the importance of reasoning. Hope you liked this video. Please share and subscribe. Thank you and keep smiling.